break it down. Just the one. Sign it up. Alright. It looks like we're live. Welcome back, guys. It is I, Chef Sinks, the best streamer alive. The best streamer in the whole wide Twitch world, basically. In the whole streaming platform. In the whole streaming uh, social medias. So we're back again with another programming stuff that I'm gonna be doing for you guys. Well, I mean, with just a day in the best. Wait, how do you say it? A day in the best streamer. I think it's something like that. Like a day with the best streamer. A normal day with the best streamer in the whole world. I don't know. There's this videos on YouTube called something like "Day in a Scientist's Work," a life in scientists. I don't know what it's called. I don't know how you say it. But anyway, just gonna make sure the mic is set perfectly so you guys could hear. You guys could hear me. Hear me say stuff. Basically, you know what I'm saying? All right. Good. Can you guys see me? I'm not sure if you guys can see me, but hopefully you guys can see me. Let's go ahead and show you guys the screen. So the screen is this. This is the screen here, and yeah, we're just gonna do some programming for a bit, basically, and maybe later on when I feel like moving on to something else, we could do gaming, and after the gaming we could do workout, and after workout we could do what else can we do? We could do some rock paper scissors, I guess. Right? Yeah, we could do that as well. But yeah, this is just gonna be me chilling and working on this programming language that I created a long time ago. I'm gonna try to fix some errors, some bugs, yesterday we actually left off where there was this problem that I had to fix, which I did. I fixed it once I ended the stream, so I actually found the issue, basically, which was when it was breaking from the for loop and compiling the parameter for the function. It was actually recalling it on the else if block, or I mean the if block, basically. It was re-executing the code, which causes it to like recall the function again and move on, basically, with the next step. So I basically fixed that by adding another variable, which would make sure that if it's currently compiling something, it should not execute. It should wait until everything is done. So everything is good now, basically. But we actually did come across another error, so that's why I'm actually making this documentation of this bug that I'm currently gonna fix on the stream. So this is basically just like a documentation of the language itself, like how long it took me to make, and what bugs and errors I came across while making this language. So yeah, the issue that I actually came across is this. So right here, hopefully you guys can see the screen. It's actually crashing because of recursive execution that's currently happening within this code here. So what's happening here is that I'm saying 10 plus opening and closing parentheses and then 20 times 100, and then minus 100. So the reason why I have this opening and closing parenthesis is so that this um, this block of code here gets executed first. So I'm telling the plus operator to basically compile this first, and then remove 100 from this result, from this compilation, and then add 10 to all, to the rest of it basically. But basically what's happening in the background is that it doesn't know how to perform this. It doesn't know how to take this block, this code inside of this parenthesis and execute it on its own basically. So that's why this is crashing. So if I actually reload the page, we're actually going to see the issue, the error that we're getting. It's actually recalling itself over and over again somehow. I don't know how that happened. So yeah, as you can see right here, it's just recalling itself over and over, and as you can see here, it adds on top of the previous text. It just keeps on adding y for some reason. So this is the issue that I'm gonna fix here. And if you look at the error console, you'll see that we get this maximum call stack size exceeded. So that means this function was recalling itself over and over without stopping basically. So the way to fix this, it's not going to be easy. It's going to take it's going to be really hard, but the only way we can fix it is if we look for opening and closing parentheses, and if it's by itself, we take that code, we execute it, and then we replace it with a reference that's going to hold the value, and then it moves on to the next one. So that's the only way we could fix this issue. So yeah, let's go ahead and code that up. So that's gonna be within the compile function. So I'm just gonna go to this compile function here, which is mostly where it does everything. That has to be compiled. So yeah, this is where it looks for parentheses, and if it finds it, it makes sure that there's nothing else after it, and it's not a function call or something like that. Then it's able to perform the the thing here, which is it just takes the whole block, and then it re-executes it all over again, which is, it's alright. But the other way we could do this is we need to basically go all the way down here and then check if there's an opening and closing parenthesis for this current thing that we're doing, and if it finds it, we need to take that code and then execute it, and then wait for the value to be returned, and after that we move on to the next step. This is gonna be really hard. This is actually gonna be really hard to perform. But we do have a way to do it. So right here, I'm gonna have the same if statement. Well, so what's happening here is that, oh yeah, it's right here. It makes sure that this is the whole block, and if not, then it moves on. So right here is where we could actually write the else statement, which is where we're gonna take this new block that we found. So if we actually log it, you would see what it is basically. So I'm just gonna log value, just so we see what we're working with. Oh, okay, seems like we got some errors. Interesting. What's going on? Oh, I forgot to put a comma there. Whoops. Alright, so let's go back here And what we're looking for is not this. What the fuck is this? This makes no sense. We're basically trying to find this block here. It seems like I can't find it though. There's only one match of that. Interesting. Oh. So because it actually breaks on the bottom, it doesn't get a chance to like find it. Oh, this is really hard. And then the next call, so this is the first one, and then the next one is this, which is what we're looking for. But in this case, it doesn't end with that because, you know, of the minus that we have. So that's why we have to actually put the else. Yeah, let's put the else here, basically, and make sure that it finds the closing parenthesis before we move on to the next step. So we could take the same if statement here and make sure that this also doesn't exist. And if that's the case, then we also need to make sure that it does find a closing parenthesis. So we could do that by, you know, creating the iter. I'm just gonna do that, and then making sure that iter.status. So this makes sure that it's closed basically by checking for status, I think. So if that's the case, then we go ahead and log what this new block is, what this new code is, and we're good to go. So this is just for testing. That's what the log is for. Oh, seems like we got an error. New, oh, okay. Yeah, I called it iter. I don't know why I did that. Alright, here we go. Let's try again. Alright, going back up here, you can see now we get 20 times 100, which is the one that's inside of the opening and closing parenthesis, which basically is the one that we need to work with as well. So that is what we're looking for basically. Now that we have it, we can go ahead and fix it, work with it. But basically the only reason why this would be within the opening and closing parentheses is if you want it to run first, basically. If you want the code to be executed, compiled first. So that's the only reason why you would put them within that opening and closing parentheses. So basically anything that you have within opening and closing parentheses will always run first with Fndlang basically. That's how I'm gonna treat everything. Everything that's inside of this brackets here will be executed first. Which you know, it's possible to actually get that working. So here, as you can see, we do have the value. So what I could do as well is actually I could just ignore that and just say code equal iter. Oh, hey there, Super Tiger. How you doing? What are you doing? I'm currently working on my on this programming language called Fndlang. So I'm just trying to fix some errors with it. That's really all. You know, I came across a couple bugs that I gotta get it working basically. I gotta fix it. So yeah, so if I do this is actually gonna stop the crashing from happening. So if I reload it, you would notice that now it works. Look at that. We get where's the plus? I don't see it. Oh, there, we get times and plus. But there's one thing missing, minus. It's not doing minus because we actually ignored minus by reassigning code to either that value. We're telling it not to do that operation basically. So the best way to get this thing to work is to take this current code that we have and then run it and then wait for the result somehow, which is gonna be really hard to perform. So there is a way we could do this. Because this operation is running, it actually gives us like an ID where we could like return back the data to. So what we could do is we could return, right? We could return null, which is just a wait for data to be returned. That's what this null would do, would basically be like, you know. And now what we need to do here is collect the rest of the code from where this left off basically. So we could do rest I don't know, rest of the code. Right, I'm just gonna create a variable called the rest of the code, and which would be code that substring substring. So we need to start from where I is basically. Actually no, where either that index is. That's where we need to start from. +1. And then we're gonna do code that length. So we're taking everything from where we left off. I think that's what this is gonna do. So here I'm gonna go ahead and log the rest of the code just to make sure that we have it. Rest of code. Not reset. Oh well, whatever. Alright, let's see what we get back. Here we go. Hopefully I did that correct. Alright, so rest of the code, you can see it's -100, which is actually correct. So that is what we needed. So basically what happened here is that we collected the 20 times 100, and then the rest of it is basically the -100, which is what we're gonna put together after we get back the result, and then run that one as well, which is going to hopefully perform what we needed to do. So now that we have that, we can go ahead and work with this. So let's see, how do we do this? So basically this is the hard part, because now we need to compile this code that we have, that we collected within the parentheses, and then wait for the value and then return it, well, and then store it as a reference, and then continue executing. So this is really hard. This is going to be really tricky, because this code, this compilation that's currently happening is basically a string format, you know. And what I'm trying to do right now is basically get the data by compiling the code that's inside of the parentheses, and then use that, which is basically, it's gonna return back a reference object. It's gonna return like an object, so I cannot just do something like code equal you know, value, which is the value that we got back from the compile, plus the rest of the code, right? I cannot do this. So if I do something like this, because value is going to be an object and this is a string format, the compilation is not gonna go as the way we want it to, basically, because we got an object back from compiling the code within the parentheses. So the only way to make value and rest of the code work is if we do a reference holder. So if we put a reference holder, and then we put we add the rest of the code, which is the right here. So if we add those together, because now both of them are actually a string, inside of this reference there's going to be like an ID, like, you know, that refers back to the value objects that we got back by compiling. So this is the value object that we got back, which then will be referred back to, you know, 1 2 3 4, which is the ID basically of the value objects, which then the compiler will actually be able to get that object and place, so that way it could work with this thing. So that is the idea. But to basically be able to store this reference, we're gonna have to do like a lot of debugging and a lot of hunting, code hunting and all that shit. So this will take us a while. Hello? Ja, avele ce vanda chumi mai lendo de. Vanda yeah, and then in the kuya in vanda malida kuangalia kisha vanda chumi vanda chumi avele vachu vayokadi wako. Yes. Asa wanda mbatabikiwa simu ama? Mbona? Ah. Yeah, could I get you? Course registration. That makes sense. Hivyo kukwambia uvachimekia chukisha mchana kupigia ama? Anakwambia angalia nini ndio uone anaangalia, anakwambia angalia nini? Basi. Ah. Kisha wanaambia nini? Kisha ndakacha. Background check complete when they're in here. Ah. Mm. Okay. All right. Anyway, let's get back to this. Ah, shit. Fuck's sake. Hello? Champanari. Oh, na mdhunga o na mchu Kiswahili? Haisi, asa mbona ko champanari yani? Ngoja niangalie. Mwambie yeye taka nini, mwambie here. Mwambie huwa taka email gani? Sasa nani champanari, what the heck? Ma, haya ngoja nikuchumie. Hivi wanachuma email nyingi, si moja tu. Wanachuma email nyingi. Ndakuchumia hizo picha, haya angalia vachumie. Ma, alright. We're good to go now. So that is what we're gonna do once we have the objects that the value that we, well, most likely the ID, but also the value. The ID will point back to the value. So yeah. So now all we gotta do is, so now that we have the value, we can go ahead and compile it basically. So we could do value, you know, the compilation stuff. I really do not want to rewrite this whole thing, so I'm just gonna copy this. It's the same thing that we have here, so I'm just gonna set it to that, and then instead of doing that, we're gonna give it iter.value, which is the one that we're compiling right now. And all we gotta do is, I guess, create like a callback function that's going to be re-executed. Recall compile, right? Well, yeah, that's what it's supposed to do, because the rest of the code is still here that we have to run basically. So yeah, we're gonna have to put them together and then recall it. So recall, we'll just call it that. And basically, like I said, this is just gonna return the same thing, except this time it will be the rest of the code. It will be the ID that we have, that we created. Actually, it will be the ID that we currently have. So that will be ID, call ID, which is going to be extra call ID. So we're just taking this current call ID to store this this current value that we're gonna get back. So it's gonna be a reference of the ID plus the rest of the code, and that is what is going to get recompiled when the recall function is executed. Now of course we do also have to say that this has a reference object, and also has a force ref or whatever. Yeah, that. I think that is what we're supposed to put to basically tell the compiler that it should look out for, you know, any references. I don't know why there's two of them. That's how this fucking compiler function script works basically, you know. So yeah, now that we have the value, we also have to save it to a storage as well. Now I don't know how to do that yet. I mean, I think it's somewhere, but wait, how do we actually save them? There's a way you have to do it, but I just to remember how I did it. I think you just push it to the let me see if I could find it. There's something called iter. What the fuck is that? That's crazy. Oh, yep, this one. This is where we have to store it basically within the garbage collector. But wait, I think the one that does this is the variable, is the function creator, which also saves it in the garbage collection, which then later on it's able to like access it and, you know, do all the other stuff. It's over here somewhere. No, it's not there. I think it's in the create arguments. It's gotta be here. I can't find it. Where are you? The fuck is it? Force object assignment? I don't even know how that shit works. Oh, yep, right here. This is what we need. So this is how we can tell the compiler that we have something that we wanted we want it to work with basically. So as you can see here, it's actually you doing the same thing here as well. So we're gonna take this, copy it, and interesting. Did I change anything? I think I did. Let's go back to our compile function. So in here is where we can now send off this value in the call function. So store ref value reference reference. So it's gonna go ahead and store it right here, and it's gonna be scope. We're not gonna create any new ID basically. We're just gonna use the current one that we have, so you know, that way it could find it and work with it. It's only gonna be one of them basically because of these operations that we're currently doing. So yeah, we're just gonna use the current ID that we have, which is right here. So that is going to be our ID. So we don't really have to put it there. I'm just gonna put it right here. Call ID. Wait, is that how it works? I think so. We just wait. Let's go back a little bit. Yep. So we just do call ID. And V is actually the value that we're trying to return back. So in this case, this would be, oh yeah, there's also the type basically. So I don't know what this stands for. It's gotta be something. I think this is like objects from JavaScript, like data from JavaScript. That's what this is. But this has to be the value basically, which then we can go ahead and grab it from this try block and then catch the error, set the value back to nil. So this is going to give us back the value that we're trying to work with, and here we assign it right there. We save it as the data, and then, you know, there's that and there's this. Everything is looking good so far. We're almost done. I hope this works basically, you know. So actually, let me go ahead and copy this. Oh, this is gonna be really hard. Sup, how are you? Hey Demon, welcome back to the stream, bruh. I am doing good. We're just doing some debugging stuff, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, let's see. Right, this is what I had wanted to do here. So I got some code, which is what we're gonna compile. Recode. Yeah, let's just call it recode. It's not good. Recall, because we already have that function. Just call it code value. Recode. Recall code. Okay, and we're gonna pass that right here. So I'm just gonna print it to the console as well, just so we can see if this is working correct. For your Roblox game, nah, this is a programming language that I am working on basically. It's for like web development, you know, making website and all that stuff. Okay, this is interesting. Ah, shit. So the recall function is done. I think we should have everything hopefully working correctly here. Oh yeah, it's using new extra, which does not exist. Just gonna use extra here, and operation ID. That's crazy. Yeah, how has it been, bruh? Where you been? You know, I haven't seen you in a while. You been busy and all that. School, right? It's gotta be. Actually, school is off, right? Um. Okay. Mostly, I think we're done with the recall function. So the next thing to do is to wait for the loop. This is the crucial part, you know, with this. Oh, actually, you know, I don't really have to do return nil. I could just say return this, you know. Sometimes, so the only reason this is crazy, but every time it comes across opening and closing parentheses, it will always be working with referenced objects. You know, like the one within the opening and closing parentheses will always be a reference object. So this could like lead to really interesting. I don't know. It's gonna be really bad. Plus, the way that I'm handling this storing the value reference is that I'm using call ID, which could kind of like not work as well because the call ID doesn't change. It's always the same. So this would mean that, well, actually, I think it would work. It would still work. Because this is a push function. So we're using a push to like add a new object, even if it has the same call ID. The possibility of it, you know, working, you know, still being able to perform the same thing that it's supposed to do is there, but there will be like bugs with the code that you're writing basically, because let's say that this is what you do, right? So if I do something like 10 plus 10 plus, and then I have another opening parenthesis, and then I do 20 plus, you know, 15, and then I do plus 100, and then I close it. So what's gonna happen here is, because this is an identifier, it's going to start from the far right basically. So it's going to do, and also because of this new code that I wrote, it's going to make it so this gets executed first, and then because we're inside of the opening and closing parentheses, it's going to execute this, and then within that opening parentheses, oh, actually this might work. I think I actually thought it wasn't going to work because it's going to keep a reference of this, but that is not what's going to happen in the background. In the background, when you're doing this kind of thing, it's going to transfer this onto a different, like, you know, operation block, you know, scope. So this would mean this is a different operation than this one, but this was the first one to like cause the far right operation to be executed. So this will be the last one to like be completed. The one on the far left will be the last one to be completed, and the ones on the far right will be the first one to also to be completed. So the last one to be completed is this. The first ones to be completed are on the ones on the right. So what's going to happen here is the identifier will execute, but it will not complete executing, you know, this operation. It will move on to this block, which then it will cause this block to be executed, which then this will also stop and then move on to this one, and this will do its operation. After that, it would then move on to this one as well, and then it would go back to 10 and then 10. So these are both different operations. So I don't think it's gonna really have an issue. I actually thought there was gonna be like bugs where when you do this kind of thing, the compiler will store, like, let's say the result of because this is gonna be done first before this. It's going to store the value of this to where the scope of 10 plus, you know, the rest of the value is, and then it's going to store that on the same scope, but it's not going to do that because of how we're, you know, handling this, how it's being handled. I think hopefully that is what happens. We're gonna see. Oh my god, this is really complicated. Okay, anyway, so it seems like for now everything seems okay. So we have to do, well, all we have to do now is wait for the operation to be completed, and this returns back the result. So that's good. Let me see. Let's see. What else am I missing here? I'm trying to. Oh no. Okay, so we're returning back the recall function, which is gonna cause it to, like, do the rest of the other stuff. So that's good. Oh yeah. Let's make sure that's there. That's good. Let me see. Oh yeah. One thing we should keep in mind is that because of the change that I made, this operation will not be executed first. This will be executed first. So in the other order, like what I said was the plus operator, which is this, is going to be executed first. But that is not what's going to happen. So because of this change, you could expect something like this to happen. So let's say I do log, right? And then within the log, I do something like iter, right? Let's say we have function 1. I execute that, and then I have a comma, and then I put opening and closing parentheses, and then I do function 2, which is, the second function, and then I close it. So mostly what you would expect is func1 to be executed first, but that is not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is that it's going to execute this one first, because maybe, I'm just saying maybe. Actually, no, that's not. Oh my god, this is really complicated. Okay, so the only place where this kind of operation will be where this kind of operation is going to run, like, every code inside of within opening and closing parentheses to be executed first, it has to be by, like, it has to be like an identifier. That's the only place that is going to be effective. So, but if you do something like, login, because this is going to be executed first, because log, actually what log does is that it takes the code, it takes the data that you're trying to print to the console, and then executes it. So it doesn't like combine everything together and then executes it. So that is what identifiers does, and that is why we have this kind of effect, which is everything within the opening and closing parentheses will run first, basically. But if you do this, like if you call a function that is not an identifier, you will not see those kind of effects. So I was actually thinking of something else. I thought this would be possible, but it's not possible. Maybe it is possible when you're doing something like assigning or creating variables. So for example, if you do something like 100, right, and then you do plus, and then you give it 100 here, so 1,000, right? So that would mean it's gonna return 1,000, and then it's gonna do this. So this is possible. Or something like, I don't know, 100, and then after that you don't do anything, you just pass in opening and closing parentheses, which then calls function 1. Then this would maybe be executed first, I think. I don't know, it's really complicated. I don't know how it works. Anyway, let's just we're gonna see what happens, right, once we're done with this. So the first thing that we gotta do now, the other thing that we gotta do is getting the loop and waiting for the result value to be returned. Because we're not doing any loops here, the value is gonna be returned to us very quickly. So I'm just gonna go ahead and log it to the console and see if we do have value back from that operation. So it's gonna say first operation value, so we know what value we got back. So if I do that, I reload the page, should work. Oh, we got an error. Great, that is great. See what we got here. Nothing. What's the error about? 840 right here. I'm not sure. Oh, I forgot to put the plus here. Okay, so now you can see here we get first operation value, which is giving us an integer, which then is 10,000. So the first operation value was the times, which is the first one that was executed, and it seems like we got an error here, reading an ID. So that's interesting. I think that's when it was trying to store it as well. Oh right, yeah, that's called call ID, not just ID. So we gotta put call ID here, and hopefully that works. Come on, let's see what we get. So as you say, it actually seems to be working. Kinda. Oh, okay, interesting. So as you can see right here, it says first operation and then gave us this recode, which is the code that it's gonna re-execute. So in this case, it's doing the ID, which is the reference ID, minus 100. So this should work, but we didn't get anything back from it. It seems like it crashed. So in this case, it did it called the identifier minus, and it failed to actually return back value for it. So that didn't work. So yeah, but we did get this as well. So that's interesting. This is supposed to be like the value basically. It's supposed to be like a placement for the the reference value. So the reference value should exist somewhere here, I think. Let's go to interpreter. Maybe it still does exist. I don't know. So yeah, it was there, but wasn't collected. But yeah, you can see the operation did move on, but 10 did not get the reference. The only one that got it was the minus, because that is where we actually ran the the minus operation. We ran it with the other one. So as you can see as well here, 10 is the last one to get executed to like operate, because it's actually starting from right to left basically. But if you use those parentheses, you make it so it does the ones within the parentheses first, and then does the rest basically. But we need to fix this issue first, this reference thing here. So let's see. Here it creates this thing. But it doesn't really it doesn't seem to get back the value that we want. So I think the issue is coming from maybe the identifier, the reader basically. So the reader here is not compiling well. Yeah. Let's go ahead and check what parameters is doing. So right here we do first operation, it returns the value, then there's that, and there's that, and then here we have x, which is holding a reference, and then y, which is 100, and then calls the time. So interesting. It should be able to return that back as an object when it's given. So there is maybe a way to check if it's doing that, which we could go back to this, because we're passing it. Is there an error with the other one? I don't think so. So in this compile here, we're storing it there, but we're also, doing this. Is this crashing? Let me actually see. I'm gonna go ahead and log error just so to make sure if there is something wrong. Nope, nothing's wrong with that. Okay, so the value should exist, in the garbage operation web garbage. I think we did go to that, right? Goes to operation web garbage. There's nothing there. So operation window, the object, the web, and the garbage. You can see there's nothing inside of it. But this value that we just added maybe does exist, but it was deleted somehow. Because it's a reference, we're not supposed to compile it, but see, there's that. It doesn't really crash it because I don't think that really gets compiled. So this is an assignment thing that's happening right now that we're currently doing. So let's go to assignment and see. So assignment 2 is what we need to look for. This is assignment 2, which is where variables get created. So assign, which is whole code. Just gonna look at that first of all. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and remove the rest of the code because we don't need them right now. All we should do now is basically just this is probably one of them that we also gotta have to put have to do the same thing here because I think maybe. Alright, so now the key that we're gonna be looking out for is X. Actually, yeah, it's X. So we're gonna look out for X, and then we're gonna print this. So if var name is equal X, then we're gonna do that. So let's go ahead and trim this as well. Good to go. Alright, so you can see here X did its thing. I think it's X or Y. Yeah. Fuck's sake. This is not giving me the result that I wanted to work with, So we have X and Y here. So it's doing that, assigning Y to that. It seems like there's no There's no Y assignment. I mean, there's no X assignment here. So I think this is happening with the first assignment then, not here. Not with this one, it's the first one. So there's only one of them, and this is happening in, wait, so this is the first one. What the fuck? What is this doing? Because it doesn't really call itself. Oh, that's assignment 2, so this is for compiling the value. Oh, because it's a reference, so it doesn't work. So like in here in default, I think there's a way that it checks what we're doing, right? What kind of value it's compiling. I just don't know where that is located. But it should be somewhere here. Maybe it's in the compile value. So in the compile value, but where's the log? Where's the log function? Where the heck is the log function? Okay, let's go back to 2. Because I think, where did I put the log function? Console.log. So the log is in the 2. Assignment 2. That's, I couldn't find it though. So assignment 2 is inside of the compile. How does it work? I don't really know. Let me actually go ahead and move this thing outside, like right here, and see what we get. Okay, so now that it's outside, yeah, we're still not getting the X compilation, so it's not compiling X. X is not being compiled. So that's interesting. Why is this? Why is X not being compiled? I think it's in the variable creation. Let's go to that. Let's go to this. This is where it creates variables. Damn, this is old. Oh, so the first version of this was created in 18, and then it seems like I updated to on 2021. That's crazy. That's very old. Like I said, this is really old language that I've been working on. Couple years, you know, we're still going. So I think this is where the X reference has been compiled on, because this is where it creates it basically. All this stuff, I'm gonna have to like clear that up later. So if it finds errors, does that. If there's value, does that. Finds accessors, some stuff there. Operation and the create function. So right here I'm gonna go ahead and log, you know, make sure that the variable name is X or the variable name is Y. So the reason why I'm doing this is just so I don't get like a lot of console logs, you know, to the and I won't be able to see like what I'm trying to work with. Create variable name, and then I'm gonna do an assignment, which is variable value. And now I'm just gonna go ahead and remove the older console log. This one is not needed. All right, there we go. Okay, so now you can see we get X20, we get Y. Oh, I hit this mic. just do that. There we go. Can you guys hear me now? So we get x20, y 100, and then it does the times, and then it does x, a reference object, and then y 100, and then does the minus. So you can see here x is actually being executed, but it just doesn't return anything. So what's going on? Let's go ahead and check this out. So x is actually the only one that we need to look out for. The rest don't really matter, the y's, just work with the x. So basically what's happening here is there is this thing here in the creation. There is this variable reader, so like right here it reads for a reference object. So this is where the reference will be at basically. So it goes ahead and does that, and I guess the reference checks for reference object. So this is where we check ref, give it the name, so you can see. Look at that. So we get ref scope for some reason with that, and then we have all. Let's actually read all of it. There we go. So this here is the same as this. So that is what we need, and then it checks for the objects. So basically I'm gonna go ahead and print this onto the console just so we can see if we do get it. If we get it, then that means we have everything that we need. Okay, so we still get the reference, so that's good. So then it goes ahead and searches for the iterator. I'm just gonna go ahead and print it to the console, each of it. So here I'm gonna read for variable name for x, because I don't want the other outputs basically to do the same thing. Then we're gonna print iter. We need to make a copy of this, so I'm gonna use interpreter. Interpreter that, I don't know, underscore r p, wait, r, wait, p, how do you do it? Fix, pl, I don't know, dang it, I can't remember. So there's the pair, there's the R, the recall. Oh, it's this one. Yes, I think. So that is just making a copy of that object if it finds it. There we go. Oh, yep, that's the value. So it seems like the data does exist. It finds it. The type is maybe the reason why it's not working. So basically, if it finds the one that we're trying to work with, let's also compare. Let's also compare the ID here. So if we take a look, you can see it ends with the same numbers, 38 and 0k 5 54. So this is the same ID. This is the object that we stored onto the has a reference, so we can like reuse it. So it knows about that, and once it finds it, it's gonna break basically. We're only gonna do that. Let's actually go ahead and break down here and also print it here as well. So we're gonna go ahead and break it and then say xref. That's what we're gonna do once it finds it basically. And there, so you can see there's xref. So that's good. It seems like that works. Basically, maybe the reason why this isn't working is because we should probably take a copy of it, just in case it gets deleted somehow. So I'm just gonna make a copy of that as a iter, you know, and then we could pass it around basically, so it doesn't. Oh, yep, look at that. So here we have this, and then the rest is basically just that. Here there's object, so it gets the data from it as well. So we could send it as object, or we could send it as, you know, other different types. Has a string. So check if it's a reference. So if it's just a reference itself, then it does that. So if it's a string, then it has to be a reference. Oh my god, look at all this shit. And then there's that. Oh, this one. So this takes the type, the code. What the fuck is this? This is not right. I don't even know what you would use that for, you know. So in this case, yeah, what uses this? Like, where does it get used? Oh, so this is like if it has like its own type? Because that makes no sense. Like, what kind of shit is this? Let me see. Let me count it. So there's like 9 use cases of it. So the one of them is being used in the compile data X. So that is if it's multi-type. So this is really bad because this type doesn't really do anything. I'm just gonna change this to like normal, right? Like default, which I don't even know what default is actually. This is crazy. So yeah, this type really doesn't make no sense to me. There's no code for it. I don't think if I added code with mine. Oh wait, I think the reason why you do this is if you have like, if the data that you're sending back has the value, the type, and all the rest, right? That's what it would be called this, and then it will get the value, the type, and the code. That's what's gonna happen. But in this case, mine is not really like that. This has to be like recompiled to do that for us, you know. So like V here, I think it has the code, the type, and everything else that it needs. But the rest, like this is oh, this is a reference, so that's what that is. But we're not trying to work with reference, so this is passing in a function basically. I'm trying to see what other types we could send. Oh yes, this one. This is just by itself, which means it has to be compiled basically. So if it, wait, is this a reference? I think this is a reference. So this is what a reference would be, maybe. Yeah, that's what a reference would be. So if you give it that type, it's gonna work with the reference, and I don't want that. How do you give it, like, you know, it's not a reference. It's just an unknown type. That's all it is. This is an unknown type. It's not a reference. That's a reference. This is something that has its own shit going on. And then else, it just does the default if it doesn't have a specified type. So I guess what we can do is just give it, go back to the compile function. Because this, the reference exclamation point says that this has the code and everything else within. Well, it says the data has the code and everything, but in this case it doesn't. So what we're gonna give it is, we're just gonna say, just gonna give it that type. So it doesn't look, it's not looking for this type. So this means default. That's what that is. This is just default. So it's gonna have to like get the type of it and everything. So this should actually work now, I think, guys. Here we go. Let's see it. Yes. Woo! Oh my goodness. That was fucking cool. Thank me. Thank me, I did it. Thank me. Whew. That was so good. I thought that would like be really hard to get it working, but it seems like, you know, we got the result back. So basically, the reason why I had to do this is because the reason why I'm using this parenthesis is because if I don't do that, I'm actually gonna get the wrong result. So as you can see right here, I'm getting 10. That's because it's first decreasing 100 from 100, which gives us 0, and then it increases 0 by, it times 0 by 0, which gives us back 0, and then it does 10 plus 0, which gives us 10. So that's why I had to work on this times. I had to work on this opening and closing parentheses, so to make it so whenever you use this opening and closing parentheses, the code within that will be executed first, and then it will move on to the next one. So if you did have another opening and closing parentheses here, like 10 plus 10, then this would be first, and this would be second, and this would be third, and this would be fourth. So if we run this, hopefully it works. There, look at that. So it did the plus first. That's because it's this 10 plus 10. So that was the first one to get executed, and after that it did the times, which is 20 times 120, which then give us the result, and then it did the minus, and then it did the plus, which is the last one over here. So yeah, the more opening and closing parentheses you have within, if you have opening and closing parentheses, and then you have another one inside of that opening and closing parentheses, the one that's the furthest, I think the furthest one will get executed first. Well, it depends. Like, so if you have one here, this will run first, and then if you have another one here, this will run second, basically. So if I do something like divided by 2, this will be the second one to get executed. So what's going to happen is that this is going to be first, this is going to be second, and this is going to be third. And then if you have another one after it, that will be fourth, and then this will be the last. So that's how it works. So if I actually run this, hopefully it doesn't work. No! No way. Oh my fucking god. Fuck. We get some fucking error. Some other call limit exceeded shit. So I think this is because of the extra one that I added, basically, which is this right here. So if I remove that, it's not going to crash. So there's something going on there. I'm not sure what though. How do I fix that? That makes no sense. I got everything right, if I copy this, hopefully we should get the same result back. Nope, we don't. JavaScript works way different than Fndlang. So this is giving me like some different shits, because I think this is the first one that's being done here. So what we could do is we want that to be done like before everything. So we could wrap this together. We just still get the same result. Okay. I think we have to like wrap, I don't know, minus, because we want that to like run last, right? So maybe if we wrap both of them. No? Huh. How am I getting 2000 then? Like I said, the way this works is that it's adding 10 plus 10 first, and then it goes to times, and then it goes to minus, and then it goes to plus. Well, it goes minus that divided by division did actually run. You can see there's that division thing that we did. I don't know how to get the same value from this result here. I think you'd have to like remove all the parentheses, maybe. Oh yeah, that gives us the same thing. Oh, maybe you have to like do this first, right? Do this operation. No? What about this? This, I think it's the division that's really messing us up. We want this to like be done last. Something is off there, right? So the first thing it's doing is the plus. That's the first thing. And then it does the other one. What if I do that 20 times? Maybe let's do 20 times, then 100, and then add the plus. Bro, it seems like this is not giving me the same output. So it's doing 10 plus then 100, and then it's doing 100 plus. 10 plus 10 is 20, so it's doing that 10 plus 10, 20, and then seems like there's another plus. Where? Did I add another plus? Interesting. So it's doing 10 plus 10, which gives 10. And then, oh, there's this. I see. I did not see that one. Okay, so the first thing that it does is that, and then it does this. It wraps this one together. There we go. Yes. I was like, why is it this giving me the same result? So it does. So now this is actually returning the same result, like the like what our code does. So as you can see right here, we get 23,060. But if we take the same code, put it here, we also get the same result. But it's just that we have to actually explicitly add the parentheses. When you're working with JavaScript, you have to put the parentheses here to actually get the same output. As you can see right here, I'm not doing that. I'm just doing this, and then it knows. Well, actually, no. This is what happens. So, like I said, everything happens from right to left. So what's happening here in the background with Fndlang is that it starts from right and then goes back to the left. So, and even if you have the parentheses within operation happening within parentheses, that block of code in the parentheses will be executed first, but the operations will be executed from right to left. And this is only if you're working with identifiers. So identifiers, the reason why it's doing this is because the code, these operations, the plus, the minus, the division, the multiplication, all of them are written in has identifiers, and identifiers in Fndlang are basically, can you guys see me? I'm just waiting. Fuck it, I'll just keep it like that. Identifiers in Fndlang are like ways for the programmer to like add more operations to the language by writing it themselves. So if you look at this include function, we're using lib, and then we're importing expr. So this is like experimental functions. So if we go to that file, you would see that it's got a lot of write function identifiers, and you can write identifiers by using the write keyword, and then you would define the syntax by putting it within the opening and closing curly brackets. So in that curly bracket is where you would define your own operation. And if you look at this, there's a lot of things happening. So there's the plus plus operation. So this tells the compiler that whenever you come across a value that has the plus plus symbol, then I want you to do this. So what this does is that it takes a reference or a copy. So the reason why it's a reference or a copy is because the value could be a number or it could be a variable basically. So we're saying we want a reference or a copy, and then now that we have that value, we use the plus operation to like add it together and then return it back. So this is basically the same thing as you would see in other programming languages, like the plus plus operation, which is this. Oh, you can do that. Oh yeah, you have to side expression. So it has to be like a value basically, maybe, or console log plus plus 1 should give us 2, but it's not working because you have to like create a variable for it, I think. Let's give it 1. So if I do n plus plus, and if you look at n, you would see now n is set to 2. Previously it was 1, and then it turned to 2 because of the plus plus operation. And if you do plus plus n, this will increase it and then move on basically, and then return it. So that's why we have 3 now. So this operation is the same thing as this identifier is currently also implementing basically. So this anyone could write this basically. So anyone could like write their own identifiers, which it will run that code and perform that operation and then return back the result. So that is what identifier are, and in this case everything, because this is all running in as identifiers, it will all run from right to left. So it's going to be plus this, and then it's going to take everything from here and then execute that and then move on again to this one, and then move on again to this, and then move on again to this, and then to this, and then to this, and then it's going to go back and back and back to 20 and back to 10. So yeah, that is how identifiers work. That's why we don't have to use parentheses. We only use them when we know that the result should be different. It should be done first basically. When an operation should be done first, then you would use the opening and closing parentheses, so you would perform that one first and then do the rest. So yeah, that's that really. Kind of cool. I like it. I like those opening parentheses, but there is this error that we actually found that I'm gonna have to fix, which for some reason when I add another opening extra parentheses here, it just crashes. That makes no sense. So as you can see right here, we got some crash log in the scope. Why did that crash? Is it because of the minus or the division? Or is it because I have a lot of them? I'm gonna remove one of them and see if I could only have 2 running. Yep, that also causes the same thing. So it seems like you're gonna have 2 of them running at the same time. So this comes back to the plus operation, to the compile. I think that's the reason why this isn't working. So if we go back to compile, let's take a look what it's doing, right? So back to the compile function. We should get this code, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and see if we actually are getting it back. So I'm gonna log data value just so we can see what's happening. Nothing's happening, as you can see. It just doesn't do anything. So there is something off basically. So what is going on here? So the first thing that we're doing here is we're saying 10 plus 10 times and then plus. As you could be a different value. So let me because we want the operation to happen first and then move on. It seems like that's not what it's currently doing. I'm just gonna go ahead and log the code. This is gonna output a lot of stuff. Okay, so yeah, interesting. Wow, look at that. So that's interesting. So the code is working. Let's actually go back up here. So this is where it started, and then it went to whatever that is, and then this is where we are. So from here it executed the plus operation, which then did the other stuff, and so from the plus operation it did this. After that plus operation it did that, another plus operation, which is this one, and then after that it did this. So this one is actually, so I think I know where the error is coming from. I think it's coming from here. So this is where we're currently at. What this. So I'm just gonna log what this just so you can see what we're working with. So here as well, I think we have to add this same operation as well, you know. So as you can see, we get what this, a lot of what this logs. I'm just waiting for it to crash. There we go, great. Now let's go back up. Alright, so if we go here, you can see this one, which is the one that it's currently crashing on, is giving us the what this output. That's because it's the same operation as this, but I didn't put it. I'm trying to think of like the best way to do it, basically, because it is the same thing. It is the same operation that we're trying to do here, but because so what's happening with this if statement is that it's checking if the code trim is equal, the current code trim is equal, code I is equal opening parenthesis, and the last of them is equal to closing parenthesis. Then the if block succeeds, basically it moves on. But if it wasn't that, then it wouldn't have succeeded. So I think the best way to like work with this is to remove all this and just work with this one. You know, we don't need this if block, because this one is the same thing as this one over here. It's just that, you know, I don't know. It's really hard to explain how. I think if I remove this, maybe something else is going to not work as the way it should, you know. So that's why I don't want to remove it. I want to keep it here. But I think it's best if we remove it. So I'm gonna comment this thing out for now, and you know, just see if this one works. So if we reload now, hopefully, yes. Okay, so you can see now we actually are getting some result, some value being printed to the console without crashing, basically. So that's good. Is this fixed? I don't know. Maybe it is. Seems like it works fine now. So, but I'm sure in the future I'm gonna have to like remove this, uncomment this thing out, maybe. So let's actually see what's happening here. So, like I said, by default, it just removes the parentheses and then re-execute the code. But in this case, what we're doing is we remove the parentheses, and then we recompile the code, and then we wait for the value to be returned. You know? So that is the difference here. This one is just saying, okay, we're just gonna remove this. We're just gonna remove this opening and closing parentheses, and then re-execute the code as without the opening and closing parentheses, which would work, which would like, you know, So in this example, this would be something like this: 10 plus 10. Hopefully this operates, because if it doesn't, then we're gonna have to uncomment that. So if I do 10 plus 10, we should get an output back, but we're not getting anything because it's waiting for the value and then it returns it. So that is what's happening here. It's that's why we're not getting the result back, because we're actually removing the parentheses and then we re-execute it, but then it waits for the value to be returned. The 10 operation seems like it didn't even run as well, so that's interesting. Why didn't that work, right? So yeah, it seems like this has to be here somehow. There's no way of fixing it there's no way of this working. I mean, maybe there is, but I'm gonna remove that log because it's kind of really in the way. Okay, so here you can see we get 10 plus 10. So this does, the identifier does execute, but it doesn't return the result back to the caller somehow. Why isn't the result being returned? That's interesting. The result should be returned. Oh yeah, we're also missing one thing here. We have to actually check for loop. So let me just make sure I add this here. Check for loop, just so we don't forget that. Because if we do, then it's gonna be another fucking stupid bug hunting shit that I'm gonna have to do. So this just returns that back. Returns it back to the caller. Which is actually failing to. It's like get a compile it. So the value should be returned back to class, to like the log function. But it's not doing that. I don't know why that. I don't know why this is failing. Like, this is valid. You know, everything's good. Oh yeah, I know why this isn't working. It's because the value that we're actually returning as well is actually a reference object, where some operations in Fndlang are not really coded to work with this type of data. Basically, they're programmed to work with like you know, different values. So what's happening here is the code that we get back is the reference of this result, so which is gonna give us 20. So 20 is returned, but it's not returned directly to directly to the caller. So this is interesting how we're gonna fix it. There is maybe a way or so, because now this code, this result that we're trying to return back, is actually the compiler returns back a reference, because that is what the rest of the code is. So if we take a look here of this, you will see that it's actually recalling compile, and the compile returns back this scope, which is right here. So it returns back a reference, which then that reference gets recompiled, but nothing happens with it because we didn't really tell the how it's supposed to handle it. So we have to somehow tell this compile function how it should, you know, work with this kind of stuff. So then it's going to return back the same value, and then you'll be able to work with it. So yeah, we don't have to make this really hard. Thank goodness. I was actually gonna have to like I was actually thinking of like recoding, like hard coding like each function, like the log function, to accept references, and then also hard coding this other stuff, all the functions that this compiler has. That's what I was thinking of, but we don't have to do that because of the compile function, because the compile function is that gets executed every time something happens, basically. So every time you print something, I mean every time you work with a number, with a variable, with anything, the compile function is the first one to get executed. So log will call the compile function to like do this value. This means we could tell the compile function to look for a referenced object and then take the data of those and then return it. In this case, we're not going to return the data as strings because the operation needs it to be something like something that it could interact with, like data and stuff like that. Like this, in this case, is going to be a number, so it's going to return back a number. Whew, that was close. I was actually thinking of doing that shit. I was like, man, that's gonna take so long to like hard code this kind of shit onto all the functions, and the fucking length of this file is like over almost like a million lines of code, I think. So if we go all the way down here, you can see. Let's see. Look at that. It's almost it's almost 100,000, right? So yeah, that's how big this compiler is. And I was gonna like redo that, like make it so each function handles that shit. That would have taken me like fucking weeks or months, I think, to finish, But anyway, now that we know what to do with this, we need to go to all the way down, basically, where that's where we're gonna look for the variable thing, the reference object. But this is really hard. I need to copy everything from the where the variable gets created, basically. So I think it's called create. Yep. So this is where variables gets created, and what I need is the reference thing here. This is what we need. Checks for the object and then gets the data for us, and does all these other operations. This is what we need. I'm gonna have to copy everything here to actually get this thing to work. I'm just gonna copy this. Actually, I need like everything from this if statement. From the for loop to the code. And then we could go back to compile. So that is the one that's gonna actually get this thing to work for us, like, so it doesn't return undefined data when it's when it's doing the opening closing parenthesis reference thing. You know what I'm saying? Wait, what the fuck is this? Oh, yeah, this is pointless, really. I'm gonna have to delete this somehow. So I don't want anything to like work here because it's pointless. This was like for math stuff, I'm just gonna put false. If false, if not false, maybe that might work, right? So we don't want this to execute. So this is gonna return true, right? Yeah. So we're saying if, and then there's false. So this code shouldn't run, I hope. This block here should not run. The reason, I think it's best if I just remove it, right? That's just gonna confuse people. It's just gonna confuse me more, basically. Ah, shit. Ah, great. God dang it. I got all this shit. There we go. So gonna remove the if. Wait, no. Oh, I did remove this one, so that's good. Okay, there we go. Okay. Goddamn. Okay. So, wait. Ah, shit. I forgot to. Wait. Is this the code that does the? Yes. Okay. Great. So now we go to all the way down, and then there's the reference force ref. So if it's ref, which is something up here. Wait, where's ref? Oh, there's ref. So it looks for ref. And then yeah, this is not good. Wait, what the fuck? Why am I deleting this? I mean, maybe it's supposed to be deleted. Something here, and then there's force ref. So this should not run without the force ref. If not force ref, is that? Okay, so if there is a reference, then force ref, then it takes it. This is target. What's target? Target is the code. Which is by itself. This thing here is really not good. I don't know what the fuck this whole thing is doing. I don't think it's supposed to be here. You know? I'll just delete that whole thing. Hopefully nothing breaks, you know? Okay, and then there's the code, which is just gonna be code. I'm just gonna call this code. Like the name thing, this is really not being used as much. Oh, actually it seems like it is. Interesting. I thought it was just, you know, some stupid shit that I did. But it seems to be something important. Very important, you know. And this is where it looks for ref object. Which I think it does get created here as well. No, there's force that. So we also need to get hold of force object. This is really stupid. All right, I guess we're just gonna work with it. So there's force, ref force, and ref object. I think it seems to be working anyway. So you know, that's that ref object in the extra. This is the code using I equal to and where's the ref variable again? While we're doing that, why did we say that is true? And then it gets the data here, breaks off, and we have the val, this everything. So wait, where the fuck are those? They're not here. We have to like create them. So there's that, there's the C, and there's the val, which will all be null by default. Actually, I'll do something like this. I'm not sure if we could do that. And then you do equal. Can you do that? Nah. I think JavaScript supports that kind of shit. Set this to null. Set this one also to null. Use the let variable. And that's good. Okay, so just like that, we're not returning anything, I hope. So it's just a function. and this is where we return the dates. Yeah, I think we have to return the data back because it is a reference, so we have to return it back. In this case, we're going to return it in the format of the type and the val and the code, just like that. And that crashes. Let is disallowed has, huh? What did I do wrong? Oh, I have to use semicolon. Why did I put a comma there? Okay, we get variable names not defined. It's gotta be somewhere here. Yep. Yes, there we go. So as you can see now, it actually did return back that 20 value back, which is the 10 plus 10 operation. And it was stored as a reference, so we got back the same value right after we're done. So seems to be working. That's good. And we could also do the times here, times 100, let's say, which should be something, what, 2000. Damn, look at that. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. A beat, man. A beat. A beat. Beat. A beat. A beat. Beat. A beat. A beat. Beat. So that's just gonna give us back what? 10. It does the minus operation. So first it calls the I think it calls the plus operation, right? So we're doing, oh wait, I forgot to close it and it somehow still operated. That made no sense. So that was an interesting bag there. I'm not sure if you guys noticed that, but for some reason, if I remove this, right, the code works fine, but it gives me some different result. So there's something here that is not being operated on. Maybe there's something that is not being operated. So we have plus, we have minus. We have plus, we have times, we have minus, and then we have again minus and plus. So if we take a look here, there's only one minus, but for some reason it thinks there is two of those, like 2 times of those and 2 times of plus. Multiply was only done one time, so that's interesting. And you can see here, this is what the data gave back. So what's going on here? So yeah, it's because this operation was not wrapped around. So what it did was it just did it without the parentheses. So if I actually remove that, just like this, I'm gonna have to add one there. We get the same output. So we get a plus, the minus, and minus again. Huh, that's not correct. So what we're doing here is this operation. Nothing here gets executed first, basically. But there is this thing, which is the first one to be done, the 5 plus 5, which is what we're getting, and then it says x equal 10, and then it does the times, which is over here, and after that it has to do the minus, x no, but then it does minus again. Like there's 2 calls of minus here. That really makes no sense. Why has that been done 2 times? Something's not right. Interesting. How do I fix this one? This is a really hard. It's a really hard one. Seems like the operations are recalling themselves. Makes no sense. Make believe you one more time. For the good time. For the good time. Alright, anyway. We're gonna pause the video illustrating here, the documentation here, and we're gonna move on. I will see you guys next time. Okay? Okay?